common factoring. You should always use this before doing any type of factoring that we're going to do. Always start with common factoring. What this means is, for example, if you have 2x squared plus 8x, we want to ask ourselves, what are the factors that give this expression? So the factors multiplied together that gives 2x squared plus 8x are what? Well, first you look at both numbers. Is there a common factor that both are divisible by? And looking at this, we can see that they are both divisible by 2. So what we do is we take the 2 out. And then we open a bracket. Before we do that, let's look at the x's. We didn't even look at that. So we have 2. Looking now at the variable, what do both of them have in common? That's what common factoring is about. What is in common to both? Well, they both have an x. This one has an x squared, but this one has an x. But both have at least one x. So we will take 2x out. Taking 2x out really means that we are going to divide each of these terms by 2x. If I divide 2x squared by 2x, what am I left with? X. If I divide 8x, positive 8x, with 2x, I get plus 4. Now, if I were to then expand and go this way and expand, I would multiply these two together. 2x times x is 2x squared, and 2x times 4 is 8x. So going this way, I expand, and going this way, in this case, I am factoring. I'm finding the factors that will result in 2x squared plus 8x. So let's do another one. So if we have 3xy plus 9x, we ask ourselves, what is common to both? First, always look at the numbers. So we've got a 3 and a 9. Well, both are divisible by what? 3. Very good. Then we look at x and x. Both are divisible by x, so we can put that. We have another variable here, y. Are they both divisible by y? No, because this term does not have a y. So we will open our brackets to find out what are we going to multiply 3x by to come up with this expression. Well, in order to get 3xy, we need to multiply 3x by y. In order to get positive 9x, we need to multiply it by 3. And now if I want to check, I can see that 3x times y is 3xy, and 3x times 3 is positive 9x. And so I know that I have done this correctly because I can go back and see that they both equal the same thing. So this is common factoring. And you always want a common factor first, and you'll understand this as we go further into the factoring. So the next kind of factoring I want to look at is factoring by grouping. And factoring by grouping, well, this means you have a group. For example, so wx plus wy plus xz plus yz. And what I tell my students is what you want to do is put together those that you feel have something in common. So looking at this, I can decide that these can go together. And so I just put a bracket. I haven't changed anything because it's still adding. And I can put these two together. Okay, you can choose to group them differently, but I'll just group them like this for now. What you do then is ask yourself, what is in common? Can we common factor something here? Well, we look at these two terms and we can see they both have a w. And so then what is left over? X plus y. Because if I multiply the w times x, I will get wx. W times y, I'll get wy. There's a plus here. And we are going to factor out here something else in common. It looks like the z. What's left over? X plus y. Now, when you look at this, you can ask yourself, is there anything in common in this expression? And this is one expression because there's a multiplication here. That means this is all together. And this too is all together. And looking at both expressions, you can have a common factor that's a monomial or a binomial. In this case, our common factor, as you can see, is x plus y and x plus y. And so that's what we're going to do, the x plus y and x plus y. So we can take that out. When you factor out x plus y, and you divide this whole expression by x plus y, you're left with w. And so we can open a bracket and put in the w and plus what's left over from here when I've divided it by x plus y, the z. And if I want to check to see if this was correct, what I can do is FOIL to check or expand, okay? And so if we were to do that, we can multiply this out and you'll get xw, multiply this out and you get xz, and then plus a yw, and then plus yz. And if you can look here and look here, it's exactly the same. So we've done it correctly. That's how you would do that. So let's try another one so that we can practice this. So let's try to group a different one. 5m squared t minus 10m squared plus t squared minus 2t. So now when you look at these, you can decide which ones you want to put together, okay? And it's not always going, you can choose, it doesn't matter what you choose, it'll work out in the end if both of them have the same common factor. So I could do it two ways. Let's try it one way. Let's try and just do it simply like this. And if I do that, I can take out from here, both are divisible by 5, both are divisible by m squared, and so what's left over is t minus 2. Because this divided by 5m squared leaves me with a t, this divided by 5m squared leaves me with minus 2. Plus, if I take out the common factor here, looks like it's only t. T squared divided by t is t. Negative 2t divided by t is negative 2. You know you have it right when these are the same. And so our common factor is t minus 2. And then what's left over is 5m squared plus t. Now what if we decided to couple them differently? Okay, so let's see what happens if I decided, for example, to put these two together and then those two together. So I'm going to erase this and we're going to couple them differently just so that I can show you that in the end it should work out for you either way. So I'm going to put the 5m squared t plus t squared, and then I'm going to put minus 10m squared minus 2t. And I'm going to couple them this way. Now, the one thing I would say to you to be very careful, whenever you have a negative sign like this, what you want to do is you want to bring it into the bracket. However, you must put a plus sign because these are just being added together. If you just put a bracket, it will seem like we're multiplying, and you just saw that that's not the case. So in this case, we look at this and we say, what is in common? In this case, the only thing in common is the t. As you can see, there's no number here. No, there's a 5m squared, there's no m squared. So if I'll just take out the t, what's left over is 5m squared plus t, okay? In this case, because they both have a negative, and you know that you're going to need a positive, Let's take out the negative. Both are divisible by -2. What's left over here? And if you look at the variables, there's nothing in common. -10m squared divided by -2 is 5m squared. -2t divided by -2 is plus t. And as you can see, once again, we have the same binomial here and here. So that's now our common factor, 5m squared plus t. And what's left over is t minus 2. If you look back to what we did originally, this was the answer. I can check both by foiling it out and seeing if I reach this. And this is called factoring by grouping. So when you first look at something like this, the first thing you want to do is ask yourself, is there a common factor to all of them? If there isn't, then what you do is break them down into 2 groupings. Sometimes it's 3, it depends. And into groupings that you think there would be a common factor. And then you common factor out whatever the common factor is, and then you can see that you've got a binomial as a factor that's in common to both expressions, and then what's left over. And that's how you do factoring by grouping.